Hello, Guidely. I hope you guys are doing well today. I'm so excited to bring you one of my personal favorite authors and experts here today. Karen Curry Parker is a best-selling author and human design expert. Usually I share a little picture of your book on the screen, but I actually happen to have yours in person because I'm such a big fan.
You took all the papers out.
I did all of my charts here too. We can talk about those in a minute. Karen has been speaking, coaching, training, and podcasting on human design for almost 30 years, touching close to 100,000 lives around the world. Her core mission is to help people live the life they were designed to live by discovering who they are, what they are here to do, and how to activate their potential and authentic life path. Thank you so much, Karen, for being here today. Like I said, I'm really excited to share this time with you.
I am excited to be here. It's an honor.
So human design is kind of new to the scene. It's a tool to discover who you are really and how you interact with the world and other people. Can you kind of just jump in and start sharing with us what is human design? How did we learn about this?
Okay, I will give you a brief overview, and I'll tell you the weird story of how I learned to do this, and then we can go deeper with it. So, human design is a personality typing system. So it's comprised of Eastern and Western astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the Hindu chakra system, Judaic Kabbalah, and quantum physics. Basically, it takes all these beautiful ancient wisdoms and esoteric knowledge systems and blends them up into a very unique system in and of itself. I like to think of it as kind of a Rolodex of all the possibilities of what you could be living as a human being. You know, we talk a lot in the personal growth industry about personal growth, evolution, changing your thinking, becoming more authentic, but that's kind of a amorphous mess, right? If you sit down and you say, okay, I'm going to become more authentic, it's like, what does that mean, right? And how do you know what's authentic? So what I really love about this system is that not only does it give you some really deep and powerful insights into how you can best make decisions, which is really at the bottom line of creating whatever you want in your life, it also gives you a very systematic approach to kind of go through this catalog of all these cross-cultural ancient and modern archetypes and begin to explore how do you use these archetypes to construct the story that really is the right story that tells the truth about who you really are.
Wow, it sounds really difficult to grasp, but I know from working with it personally that you have made it very easy to understand through the way that you teach it, and that's something I really appreciate about you.
Thank you. I appreciate you appreciating it, because I will say that, you know, there are lots of different beautiful permutations of how human design are taught. And I always tell people, when you first learn human design, go study everywhere. Because first of all, I think when people first encounter their human design, nobody just goes, oh, no, whatever. People get hooked on it. I always tell people it kind of calls you. And part of why it calls you is that it just really has profound answers that I think make it okay for you to be where you are, even if where you think you are isn't where you want to be. It explains so much about why you are where you are. And so you can start to learn to love and accept yourself at a much deeper level. But a lot of traditional human design is very complex. It's written in this language that I think, to me personally, and of course, my background first was as a nurse and first as a life coach. I was actually one of the very first trained life coaches in the world. And the vocabulary of traditional human design it didn't come out of my mouth. I felt like when I would start talking about it, like I was from another planet. And so I really decided from the beginning, this is a great tool, but we've got to make it more palatable so that it's not harsh and weird. So,
and off-putting.
Yeah.
Well, and I can really relate, you were describing a permission. When I discovered human design, it really allowed me to give myself permission to use the strategy outlined by my type to allow the universe to deliver things to me that were meant for me. And if I had to say that that's the core of human design, that's what I've taken away from it. It's really.
I really like that, because I'll try to tell this story without crying, because it just moves me so much. The most common thing that I think people say to me after a reading is not, oh, wow, now I know what direction to go with my life. Because of course you're going to get that as well. But people say to me, I feel like you see me. I feel like you really see me. And I had a 76-year-old woman say that to me one time. And I was like, how can somebody go through their whole life, 76 years, and not feel seen? And I just, anyway, that was, to me, that ability to have somebody sit down with a chart, look at it, say, look, this is the story of who you are. You are a unique, vital, irreplaceable part of the cosmic plan. You're here for a reason. Here's the reason. Here's how you tap into living and embodying that reason. And yes, you are meaningful in the tapestry of the world. So I'm glad you feel seen. I'm glad people feel seen. They need to be seen so they can start engineering their course forward.
Yeah, definitely. And I use it, with my family. I've mentioned before here on my live interviews that I have 3 daughters, 3 kids, and being able to use this tool to see them, I also feel like, and have them see each other, and give them permission to be who they are naturally, and not have to be all the same or perform all the same or respond all the same. It's just added a real richness and dimension to our relationship. So.
I have 8 children, and I have one son in particular, my youngest son. And I swear, if I had not had human design, I don't know what I would have sent him to reform school, or I would have medicated him heavily. I just like to have that tool to be able to go, oh, he's doing this because he's this very intense, emotional, creative, high energy human that needs to move and groove all the time. And I got to create that for him.
Yeah. Okay, so we've introduced it as a personality type system. So let's talk about the types, and if anyone's following along and your type, and if you don't, I think you've got a resource to share where they can pull that up. Is that correct?
Yes.
You want to share that now, or should we share it after? I'm not sure.
We could share it. We could share it now and after. It's easy because it's an automated system, so people can go on their chart while they're watching.
Okay, so that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's freehumandesignchart.com.
Okay, and you do need to know your birthday and where you were born and the time you were born.
Yes, but I don't need to know what hospital room you were born in. People tell me that all the time. So birthday, birth time, and birthplace.
So just like astrology, freehumandesignchart.com, right?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So we'll just leave that up for a few minutes if anybody wants to go.
It's really free.
Oh, let's blame Mercury again.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. There we go. Awesome. So, okay, let's talk about the types.
So at the heart, this is the simple part of human design. At the heart of human design, there are 5 different energy types. Each one of those energy types has a different way of working, a different way of relating, a different way of processing energy, a different purpose, and most importantly, a different way of making decisions. So I'll go through those types for you, and we can kind of look at them. The first type is called the manifester. Manifestors are approximately 8% of the population. A manifester has an internal nonverbal creative flow, which I think is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. Our manifestor energy types kind of have this direct plug into source, right? So they've got this direct tie to divine spark, but that tie is so intimate and so direct that sometimes that process of translating that inspiration into language doesn't happen. So when you see a manifestor moving, first of all, it sometimes we're kind of, especially like in parenting situations or relationship situations, you kind of don't know what to do because you don't want to interfere, but at the same time, like, what is happening, right? So because they move so fast when they're connected, and they are moving through space, and in their head, you don't know this because you're watching them move through space, but in their head, they're kind of going not making words, but just like in this creative flow. the role of the manifestor, or the purpose of the manifestor, is actually to initiate the rest of us. So if you think about, if we think about putting on a show, or putting on a theatrical production, it's the manifestor that would metaphorically play the role of the executive director, or the executive producer, the one that gets the whole ball rolling, that starts the whole process. But the manifestor is not technically here to do the work of putting on the show. They're here to get it started. They're here to initiate it, and then to let it go, to let it sort of do its own thing while they go on and do their own thing. So manifestor types are not designed to work in the traditional way that we think of as working. They don't have that same quality, sustainable, go to work every day kind of energy. They're here to get things started and then go have a cycle of rest and start and rest and start and rest. So they have a very different way of being in the world. They are the only energy type, and let's do the math here. That's 8%, and only half of them can actually get things started in the moment. The rest of them have to wait a little bit for other aspects, other pieces of clarity. So only 4% of us actually can go have an idea and then go make it happen. So to me, that's so powerful, because how many times have we been taught, even in the manifesting movement, right? Or the deliberate creation movement, or in the movie The Secret, which is a long time ago, but how many times are we told, go make it happen, go out there and manifest your ideas, go pull yourself up by your bootstraps and go do it? And most of us can't. The vast majority of us can't. And so already just that process of understanding that built into almost every one of our creative processes for the rest of us is a certain degree of waiting. And that's not something we're ever told to do. Nobody ever says, you know what, wait until it feels right. You know what, why don't you see what shows up? No, people always go saying, no, go do it, right?
Yeah.
The second energy type is called a generator. Pure generators are approximately 35% of the population. This is a type that has, that's you. This is a type that has a role in the world, a purpose in the world of literally building the physical world. They're here to be masterful over the process of becoming masterful. So generators are here to see what shows up in the world, we say wait to respond, meaning if you're a generator type, your decision-making process is to pay attention to what's showing up in your life, to the cues and clues as to what your next right step is. You have daughters. I don't know if you saw the Frozen 2. There's the
mine are older, but
we're not into it either. My 11-year-old was horrified that I watched it, but I watched it. And it has this song in it about waiting for the next right step. That's sort of the generator thing. When you are a generator, you have a specific path that's going to take you to become masterful in the thing that you feel most passionate or excited or fired up by. And that's really, really important, because when you are a generator type, you're not designed to settle for doing something that you don't love. You're not designed to rationalize accepting something less than what really inspires you and creates meaning in your life. You're designed to wait to see what shows up and then respond to it. And when we say respond to it, that means go do the things that feel good. That's also, like, when I coach people, it's like, that's the thing we have to work on the most. They're like, are you sure that's okay? Yes, it's totally okay. See what shows up, see what signs, what cues, what clues, what somebody might say to you. Those things all give you signals, and that signal comes from sort of in your gut when you're a generator that goes, yeah, I want to go do that, right?
Well, and it can feel very selfish. We've been taught not to keep our head down, to work, to manifest the things, to create things, and then to follow what lights us up. And it's been a long journey for me of unlearning my conditioning, to really be able to respond to my strategy as a generator. But when we do that, really, like, bigger and more exciting and more wonderful things just are attracted to us.
Totally, because you're supposed to be having a wonderful life. And that inner, like, oh, that feels so wonderful feeling when you get that right signal, that's you lining up with your authentic path, with what your purpose is. And, again, I think you're totally right. We're so trained, and this is really true for all of us, to settle for less than, or, take the Band-Aid job or whatever we have to do in the interim. And there's nothing wrong with doing it in the interim if you're shifting. But if you settle for that for the course of your lifetime, here's the thing that happens for the generator, and there's 2 generator types. This is true for the second generator type as well, which is called the manifesting generator. It actually shuts off your connection to your vital life force. And you lose connection to a tremendous amount of productivity and energy. You know, people tell me all the time, I'm so tired. I'm so burned out. In fact, I'm doing a TED Talk on burnout in September because it's such a common thing that people say to me. And part of what happens is we're not really technically burned out, but I think we have just lost so much of our connection to our vital life force because we're compromising and not following those things that feel right, because our brain is going, you can't do that. That's not reasonable. That's not responsible. That's not rational, right? And then we lose, you know, we don't get into that flow of this spark. You know, a generator that is following those clues that are being so beautifully laid in front of them as, you know, by the universe, a generator that's following those clues. I mean, when the sun comes up in the morning, usually before the alarm goes off, you're like, yeah, it's another day, I'm ready. So I did. So the third type in human design, as I said, is also a generator type. The third type is called the manifesting generator. The manifesting generator is kind of like the buy one, get one free. You are part generator, and actually always your generator first. So everything that I just said about the generator types is also true for the manifesting generator. But you also have a little bit of the component of the manifestor energy in you. So you are a generator that has an internal nonverbal creative flow. The tricky part for the manifesting generators, you can't follow that flow without a sign or a signal the way a manifestor can. So a manifestor can go, I'm connected, feels right, I'm going, right? The manifesting generator can go, oh, I'm connected, feels right. Oh, I got to wait for the signal out here in my outer reality. I need the sign, or I need somebody to say something, or I need to encounter something that's going to go, okay, now it's right. So there's an interesting sort of learning path when you are a manifesting generator that's about trusting in the unfolding and learning how to become patient, which is not easy if you're a manifesting generator, but really powerful, because when you can learn to temper the force of your creative energy, because manifesting generators have an enormous amount of energy too, just like generators, when you can temper that correctly, it puts you in the right place at the right time with the right people, making the right choices that help you fulfill, again, that path of mastery. The difference between the pure generator type and the manifesting generator, and by the way, this is in total 70% of the population.
Okay, I was going to ask you, what percentage is manifesting generator?
Yeah, it's about 35. So this is most of us. Most of us, when we're living in this way, yeah, we're all builders. We're here, if we go back to the metaphor of putting on the show, it's the manifesting generators and the generators that are here to build the set, print the brochure up, be the actors on the stage, do the lighting, do all the work of making the production happen. But they have to be loving it. That's the kicker. Nobody's designed to do a job they hate. Nobody's designed to do something they don't like. Now, I just have to add a little caveat here. When I say job, I'm not necessarily talking about what you get paid for. And I want us to really be clear about that, because whoever wrote that, do what you love and the money will follow, or the golden parachute, what color's your parachute book, or whatever that was. Sometimes your job is not going to be what you would do to make your money. And that's not failing. And I think so many times we talk about, oh, you know, I got to go do my job. And they think they're failing because somehow they have this other passion over here. But the job sometimes is facilitating it, and that's not wrong. But if you are a generator type, you do have to find that passion piece, that thing that really makes you want to put your energy towards building.
And I'd like to add that sometimes you have to be patient while it makes its way to you too. You know, is that we think, okay, well, I'll create it, and it, as a generator, I'd like to add that I've tried to create it several times, and it doesn't always pan out for me. It's my strategy to respond when it's presented to me.
So can I share an example? Because I think this is a really good example. This is a real life example from my life. When I first found, or I would say when human design first found me, I, of course, fell in love with it, hook, line, and sinker. And I immediately was like, oh, I'm going to go teach a workshop on this. So I booked a room. I put out flyers. It was back in the day when we put out flyers before the internet. I did everything right. I put out a press release to the local paper, and I was just so excited. And I showed up to teach my workshop, and I had 2 students. And I was like, oh man, you know, and I think we do this a lot as generator types, right? I'm a generator type. And then I thought, well, I didn't respond. I just created that. That was so not responding. So about 6 weeks later, a friend of mine said, you know, this human design stuff, that's really amazing. You should go teach a workshop. And I was like, ding, 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 ding. Like I got that internal, like, yeah, now it feels right. Right. So I rented the same room. I literally used the same press release. I just changed the date. I used the same flyers, changed the dates, did everything exactly the same. And I had 32 people in the room. So, and that for me at that time was a huge, huge turnout. It was, you know, and so it was just the difference in what I created based on the way I danced with the unfolding of the process that the universe was providing for me was amazing.
Well, and I think so many people are teaching manifesting, or you hear manifesting talked about, and as a one size fits all, you know, mindset. But I really find that it's very different for each type, as you just described. And I know we're spending a lot of time on generator types, but that's the majority of the population. So
yeah, no, I think that's always been one of my biggest complaints is that we're all different and we all create differently. And knowing that piece helps a lot because now you start to look at how it unfolds differently. So that becomes especially true when we look at the next two types, because the fourth type, the projector type, is very, very different than the other types. The projector is about 20% of the population. Their life purpose is to manage and guide and direct others. So is a joke I have in our house. We say projectors are human sheepdogs. They're here to like manage they're like, you know, they herd the humans. So,
we call the projector at our house the governor. So I think we're both on the same wavelength there. And she's the smallest person at our house, but she's the governor.
Yeah. So when you are a projector, you look at the world and you are like holding in your body and in your energy field the template of what's possible. Like you look at people and you see what they're doing and you're like, I see the potential, right? And then your job becomes to, okay, how can I get everybody into positions so that they can fulfill this potential? But here's the trick, or here's where it gets a little bit challenging. The projector is only here to manage the people who see the value of what they have to offer. That means if you are a projector, the number one thing you need to have in place is a high sense of self-worth, which is, I think, something all of us struggle with to a certain degree. But as a projector, if you're not standing in your value, or you run the risk of trying to manage people who don't get your value. And when you do that as a projector, people either don't hear you, literally, you'll be sitting there talking, dispensing immense wisdom and nobody's listening, or people are going to take your ideas and run with it, or they're going to react to you like, what is your problem? Why are you bossing me around? And it's so, to me, it's one of the most heartbreaking things to learn in human design, that so many projectors are out there trying to be like generators or trying to be like manifestors and push, or even responding, which doesn't work for the projector. And they're not getting the value of what they have to offer that's so innate in them, that they're not getting that value recognized. So if you are a projector, you are here to be invited or recognized by the people who are wanting the wisdom of your value, the people who are ready to be led and guided by you. And those invitations don't come necessarily that often. They come sometimes, you know, every one or two a year, or sometimes even less than that. And those, as I said, those are big invitations, like work, relationships, where you live. Those are things that if you're a projector, you have to be invited into. Wow. You don't have to be invited into the little things. Like you don't have to be invited to go to a movie or to go fill up your car with gas or go to the grocery store, but don't make big decisions without somebody recognizing and inviting you, because projectors don't have the same quality of energy. They don't have sustainable energy the way, say, the generator types do, and they don't have initiating energy the way the manifestor type does. So energy becomes a premium if you are a projector. You have a projector child. I have two projector children. You know, they're young, and when they're young, they have a little bit more energy than when they're, say, 30, 35, 40. In my practice, I would say a large percentage of the people I work with are burned out projectors who, somewhere around 35 or 40, they hit a huge wall. And it can be devastating because they're not designed to work. If you are a projector, you're not designed to work in the traditional way that we think of as working. You're not here to do Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You're here to come in, see the potential of whatever it is that needs to be built, delegate, manage, tell people what to do, and then stand back and let the work be done. And then see what shows up, how it needs to happen next. Phase 2, come back in, say, okay, we need to tweak this, tweak that, do this, tell people what to do, and then step back. And that's a great thing if you get invited into that position. It's not a position you can push yourself into.
Yeah. So it sounds like a consultant. If we were putting on the stage performance, that would be the outside consultant that would come in and
or the director.
The director. Okay.
The director of the show, for sure. And then and I would just say a lot of people that go or are drawn into the field of like coaching or healing or personal growth and development, leadership kinds of programs, they're oftentimes projectors, and they're oftentimes, I think, struggling energetically themselves, because it's very challenging to build a business when you need to be invited and recognized. There are ways to do it, and you can absolutely do it successfully. And we've had many projector presidents. Obama is a projector. JFK was a projector. Marilyn Monroe was a projector. Fidel Castro was a projector. So they're out there and they're powerful. It's just getting there is different. It's a very different path. The last type is, we call these our unicorns. The last type is the reflector. And the reflector is actually less than 1% of the population. And a reflector is, I like to call the reflector the karmic mirror. If you are a reflector, you are deeply empathic. You absorb the energy of the community you're in. And through that embodiment of the energy of that community, you reflect back out how we're doing, the quality of the energy in the place where you live, the quality of energy in your relationships. You are a karmic mirror that's reflecting back to people the quality of evolution and growth and potential that's being fulfilled from the community. And the reflector has a very, very interesting decision-making process that also requires a phenomenal amount of waiting. Projectors need to wait about 28 days, sometimes more, to make good, important decisions. Because when you are a reflector, you're absorbing and feeling and sensing so much of other people's energies. It takes a lot of time for you to kind of sort through and tease through all the things you're experiencing and feeling to really land on, okay, this thing here is mine. That belongs to these people. This belongs to these people. And really kind of being able to zero in on that. You need that time. And reflectors actually also need to talk. It's through the process sometimes of talking and having dialogue. They don't need guidance, but they need the process of sort of unpacking everything they're thinking about in a conversation as a sound, you have a sounding board so that they can get clarity in that unpacking about what their next right step is.
Well, I have 4 of the 5 types at my house I shared with you before we started, and everything you said rings so true. And I said human design has become such a great tool for us to relate to each other and allow us to communicate with and appreciate and accept and give each other permission to be how we are naturally, energetically, without having this one size fits all. So yeah, it's amazing. So I oftentimes I read your emails. You share a really beautiful kind of universal viewpoint of what's happening on the planet right now through the lens of human design. And I'd like to get your take on what we're doing, what we're going through collectively, and kind of the transformation that we're undergoing right now.
So when we look at, it's a big topic too. So the human design is a map of how our energy works. So when we're looking at the way in which we function, the way in which we work, we have this map right now that shows us how we process energy. That map itself is changing. So you may have heard people talk about the shift, or people talk about we're evolving or we're changing. And certainly when we look at human design, that's incredibly true. The nature of how we're changing, the nature of our design, the nature of our energy blueprint is actually in the middle of a shift. We're kind of in the final thrust of this big shift. That final thrust really means that we're in a very intense cycle for the next 5 to 7 years that's really about dismantling the infrastructures, the collective infrastructures in particular, that are not supporting the shift that's happening. And I want to really unpack for just a second what that shift is about. We've been in a very materialistic era that kind of ended, or started rather, with the end of the scientific revolution. We've been in a cycle where we've been collectively exploring the world, the material world. We've been looking at what defines value. And part of what we've been defining as value has been hardcore numerical metrics. We've been looking at things like, you're valuable because of how much money you have in your bank account, or because of the size of your pants, or your IQ, or the number of years you had in education. We use a very concrete material metric. And that metric doesn't really explain anymore how valuable our evolving sense of value in this new evolution that we're moving towards, this new shift in this blueprint that we're moving towards. Part of what we're doing is we're redefining what's value, and we're moving towards a definition of value that says we are, each and every one of us, valuable because we exist, that our value is inherent in us because we are living, breathing, sentient beings. And that part of what we have to do to really support that process, that experience, that evolution of our understanding of what makes something valuable, is we have to start dismantling the infrastructures that are still using those old metrics and start building a new way of living into that value, which means I think we're in the process of, as we take things apart. And right now we're really in the taking things apart cycle. So it's not a fun part of the cycle, but it is creating space. And we're really looking at what's not working. That space we create is going to leave room now for us to then come in and say, okay, if we're building from the perspective of every living being is valuable because they exist, how can we then create infrastructures that support that? How do we feed all of the children in the world? How do we take care of the education of all of the children in the world? How do we make sure that people are safe? How do we make sure that we take care of the environment in such a way that it stays sustainable? How do we build in such a way that we take care of all of the sentient life on the planet? It's very woo-woo in a sense. I know there are a lot, because we are coming out of a very logical, linear way of thinking and moving into what I like to call a more quantum way of thinking that is more deeply rooted in energies like faith and possibility and breaking free of old patterns. We are so programmed with self-doubt. When I say to people, we're moving towards building a world of equitable, sustainable peace, most of us, even if we think we're really conscious, there's a part of us in the back of our minds like, oh yeah, right. We're going to get there. I think the story of human design and the story of the change that's happening tells us we're going to get there. We're going to get to a place where the way we create is going to change radically. We're on the cusp of a creative revolution. I think that's going to mirror the scientific revolution. The choice that we have right now is, how are we going to get there? And that's the part that's a little bit trickier. We do have to dismantle things. Are we going to dismantle things, and are we going to do it in this sort of rough, bumpy, harsh, destructive, painful way? Or can we harness enough consciousness to say, okay, things need to come down. How can we most lovingly disassemble what's not working and recreate new infrastructure in a way that supports more people in a more loving, effective way? How can we do that with deliberateness and consciousness? That's really the crossroads where I think we are, especially in the next, till February of next year. If we look at the astrological transits, it's really making that decision. Are we going to ride the bucking horse or are we going to have a nice, easy ride? And that's up to us.
Yeah. Wow. I haven't really heard it presented that way before, with us, knowing that it's broken and it needs to be dismantled. That's agreed upon. But having this choice and this collective choice, which way we're going to do it, I haven't heard that before, and that's really it's refreshing and inspiring, and that we still have some power and control over which way that this is going to become better and heal.
We totally do, and I'll tell you, the heart of it is this: the heart of it rests in the concept of sustainability. We've been talking about sustainability in the context of global warming and climate change in the last few years. But yet we are in a crisis of burnout. 87% of the people on my list, after a big survey that I did a couple of years ago, are reporting themselves as being burned out. It's like a phenomenal level of burnout. People who are burned out can't create sustainably. because when you're burned out, you become reactive, right? It's like a drowning person. You're grabbing for whatever you can grab. When we're creating from that place of being dry and crispy and exhausted and depleted and desperate because we just need a break, we can't create sustainably. And it also puts us in this position where we start competing for what is seemingly scarce resources, which are not scarce, but we think they are because we're desperate. And we don't end up changing things towards sustainability. When you are taking care of yourself, staying sustainable, nurturing yourself, embodying your authentic expression to the best of your ability, and really living in that energy. As you said earlier, we think it's selfish, but it's actually the most radically selfless thing you can do, because from that place, when your cup is full, then you can create from a very different place. And what you create ends up being sustainable because it's not reactive anymore. Now it's deliberate. And it allows you then to expand that quality of well-being into the world and make that sort of become this critical mass that starts to sweep around the globe. So when I look at human design and why should I be authentic, or why does it matter if I love my work, or why does it matter how I make my decisions? I got to do what I got to do. If you're doing it in an aligned way, if you're doing it in an authentic way, if you're doing it in a way that activates the highest potential of well-being in your life, you're creating sustainably. And when you create sustainably, you're giving people around you permission to do so. You're creating more deliberately. You're creating in a way that's enduring. And that becomes the wave that we ride as we begin to make this change.
Wow. Thank you for that message. That's beautiful. And a beautiful permission to everyone watching. So I would encourage you to, go check out your human design chart. And I know your website has a lot of resources. So we'll be sure we post that too in the link. So I'd like to talk a little bit about, I know that you said earlier you were one of the first life coaches. At Guidely, our mission is connecting coaches, mentors, authors, speakers, teachers with people who need their work to kind of reach that next level of expansion or healing that they're looking for. Can you share, have you had a mentor or a coach yourself? Or any, yes?
Always. And, they change sometimes, but, my husband always says, you choose your mentor, not the other way around. And I have been very, very blessed over the course of my bizarre and serendipitous career to always have found mentors who really took me under their wing and gave me the support and the encouragement that I needed.
That's beautiful. How would you suggest to our audience who may be seeking coaching or mentorship during this transition, how to look for a good mentor, or what kind of qualities that you feel like really help you, were a good fit for you? And I know there's different, if it's personal or business or, any insight that you can share.
Well, I think the first thing is you have to, I think the person that you're choosing to guide you has to be someone who has, at least to a certain degree, walked some steps in your shoes. This is probably one of my biggest beefs about coaching in general. I am a woman. I was for many, many years a full-time single parent and an entrepreneur. So I had my business. I had 5 kids that I was raising by myself. And for years I was doing all the finances and all the education, and and for me to sit down and coach with some man who had a wife and nannies, it was like, you don't get my life at all. So I couldn't take somebody who couldn't get my life seriously. So I would say make sure that your mentor or your coach is somebody who really knows what your life is about and who is really listening with intent and compassion. And then I think the other piece, and I think at this stage in the world, is so important. It has to be somebody that inspires you. Like, you look at them and you talk to them, and when you hang up the phone, you're not going into your story about, well, they can do this, but I don't know if I can. I think so many times we have these sort of rah, 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 pump you up, just go do it kind of stuff going on in the self-growth industry. And I think you need somebody who can really inspire you to be yourself and not to be like them. And I think that's a subtle difference, but a very important difference.
Beautiful definition. We often define, a mentor or guide here internally as it's someone who's walked the path for you. And it's not the same path. You don't walk the same path, but definitely, as you said, they've walked a few steps in your shoes at least, and you have this connection and this, ability to really relate on a deeper level in a safe way that
Mhm.
nurtures both. So,
Totally.
well, thanks for joining us today, Karen. Is there any last words you'd like to share with our viewers?
Well, I will end with a story that I think hopefully illuminates why everybody's life is important. As I said, I have 5 biological children, 3 stepdaughters. We have insane dogs. And when we do puzzles in our house, a puzzle like the puzzles live maybe an hour. And so, and when you look at a puzzle and a piece is missing, or I had one of my sons, my interesting son, both my sons are interesting, but he would tear off all the little nubbins and try to jam it into the wrong place. And when you look at a puzzle and it's got pieces missing or pieces in the wrong place, that puzzle is only as beautiful as the sum total of the pieces. I think that humanity is very much like that puzzle. And when you're trying to rip off parts of yourself to fit into a space where you don't belong, or you're completely missing off the table to begin with, you think, oh, it's just my life, but it's not. You are a vital, irreplaceable part of the cosmic puzzle. And now I think more than ever, it's so vital that we find our right place and we fill it with all of the essence of who we are so that we can keep adding to the beauty of this puzzle.
That's a wonderful analogy. It gave me a beautiful image in my head and feeling in my heart. Thank you so much, Karen. I really enjoyed this time with you. And thank you for introducing our viewers to human design.
Oh, thank you.